All right, sounds good. So I'm going to call together the Marquette City Board of Zoning Appeals May 7th meeting here conducted on Zoom. So the first thing I need to do is meeting roll call. So I'll start by stating my name, Heather Dombrowski.
Jeremy Ottaway.
Michael Dunn.
Brad Newman.
Barbara Wright.
Jill Mullane.
Justin Vassa.
Okay. So I think that's everybody here. I see there's election of officers. Is that really happening today?
Or sorry, yeah, it has to.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I move that we move the election of officers to the end of the agenda if we possibly can.
If you guys want to, yeah.
Okay.
If you guys are cool with Heather running it.
Definitely.
If anybody else wants it, you can have it. Yeah. Okay, so elections of officers will move till after new business. Is that good? Okay. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the minutes from our February 6th meeting, which seems forever ago. Does anybody have any changes or anything to be made to those? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion to approve by Mr. Basso and a second by Ms. Wright. Any other discussion?
No.
All right, all right. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, say yes.
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 All those opposed, no. Okay, minutes stand. Now we have additions or deletions from the agenda. Is there anything else to add? Okay. All right, so now we'll move on to our first thing on the agenda. Citizens wishing to address the board.
There's none in the waiting room.
Okay. All right. So now we are going to move on to our only public hearing tonight, and it's 04 VAR 0520, and it's 2200 Wright Street. So Andrea, if you want to give us the background on that, please.
I'm just going to bring Andrew in so he can hear what I'm saying to you guys right now.
Okay.
All right. And then I'm going to share my screen. Okay, the Board of Zoning Appeals is being asked to review a 17 parking spaces variance from the City of Marquette Land Development Code to allow for an 8,139 square foot office and warehouse building addition at 2200 Wright Street. The proposal and existing structures and storage areas require 94 parking spaces total, and they have 60 existing spaces on the site and are proposing to add 17. They are also applying for a protective measures fence variance from the City of Marquette Land Development Code to allow for a 6-foot-high chain link fence with a 1-foot-high of 3-strand barbed wire on a 45-degree extension arm. Per the Land Development Code, a protective measures fence is a fence erected for the express purpose of protecting an enclosed area and the property therein, or a fence intended to deny access to a dangerous property or location. Attached to the agenda, you received the staff file review and analysis, which included their parking calculations and all of the items that the board needs to review in the LDC, their application, and their support information with the application. The area map, as you can see, this parcel is huge. The block map kind of closing in on this area that we're referencing, and then photos of the site. And this is their fence detail showing the protective measures proposed fence, their existing parking and site map, and then the proposed parking. And I did not receive any correspondence for this. Did you guys have any questions for staff?
Brad?
Yeah, Andrea, so there's currently a chain link fence with the barbed wire extension. That was constructed prior to the land development code, and
Well-
it's a non-conformity. Is that true?
Well, the current one on the site more than likely never went through the BZA process of the protective because I couldn't find it. This was always in the fence ordinance too, that had to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals to get approval for it.
So
So it would,
possibly,
it could be non-conforming, or
could-
they
it
could have
could-
gotten approval and we didn't have a record of it.
or it could be illegal. It's always been illegal, possibly.
Could be.
While I've got the mic, if I could, there's this comment, it's in the staff report on the bottom of page, I think it's 9. It reads, the proposed site plan provides 77 parking spaces, meeting the current zoning requirements. And then the next sentence says they're requesting a reduction of 17 from the required 94. So bottom of that page, the bold text. Are those two sentences in conflict with one another? Is there a,
Oh, okay, yeah. The proposed site plan provides 77 parking spaces, but they need 94. Correct. So scratch that current meeting the current zoning requirements.
yeah, okay, yeah, that as presented in the cover sheet, but just a little typo there. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. still open. Okay, seeing none, I will open up, oh wait, no, sorry. Do I ask the applicant now? I'm getting messed up.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, somebody who's here to present on this case, if you could present to us about it, that'd be great.
Okay, that's me, Andrew
Okay.
Mansfield. I work for Integrated Designs. Do I have to give my residential address too, or?
Yep, yeah,
I live at 134 West Hewitt Avenue in Marquette, Michigan. So as stated before, we are requesting a variance for the protective measure fence. As also stated, the existing site has protective measure fence. It was most recently expanded upon when they did their energy gas plant in the last couple of years. We're just looking to do a building expansion and a parking lot expansion related to that. And as we do our expansion, we impact the existing fence. And so we're just looking to make whole the adjustments in the fence. So as we move the fence out and back, we're just looking to reconnect and make sure that their storage yard and their energy gas plant and the other portions of their site are protected. For parking counts, as discussed, there are 60 existing spaces. A little under half of those existing spaces are considered non-conforming spaces because they're either not marked or they're on gravel. Our building expansion cuts into their existing parking lot. And so when we did our parking counts, based upon the area directly around the building. So we included the storage yards, the energy gas plant, and a couple other buildings on the site. When we came up with 94, we tried our best to get as many parking spaces as we could. We also discussed this with Marquette Board of Light and Power staff, and we checked it against their proposed staffing levels at the site, in addition to the proposed parking for any customers that come to pay bills or come to board meetings at the site, which is kind of how we settled on 77. It's what fit best within the site plan. When we expand the building, we're going off to the east side. And so the parking lot expansion is also on the east. So as we expand the parking lot, we eat into their large open storage yard to the east of their building. And we are trying to maximize the number of spaces while minimizing the impact on their existing storage yard for either for future expansion or for just their use in outdoor storage.
okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? Okay. Oh, wait, Brad? Okay, we'll start with Brad, then I'll go to you, Mike.
I'll defer to Mike. I'm trying to find the right page here in the PDF.
Okay, so,
So I just wanted to be clear on my understanding of the site plan. This is all happening behind the existing storage that's already there, right? There's not going to be any new fencing along Wright Street.
So we're expanding to the building to the east. So where their existing office building is, we're adding to just directly to the east of that. So you are correct. There will be no additional new fencing along Wright Street. The new fencing is on the north and east sides of the parking lot. So it's going to be basically behind the existing tree line.
Okay. And then on that, it's kind of an aerial photo. I'm not sure how to describe which sheet it's on because it's kind of in between a couple of sheets. But it was the existing parking and site map. I'm just not sure what the red wavy line is. Is that existing fencing?
Let me pull that up real quick and I can talk you through it. So the red wavy line, that's their existing storage yard. So the large purple outline, that was kind of the area of site improvements that we considered for doing the parking counts. The red wavy line again is just the outdoor storage area, which factors into part of the parking counts. So where the existing fence runs, it's kind of hard to see. So the existing fence runs along like the north side of the south tree line along that gravel yard, then goes north and it cuts over towards the building where so the building does an L shape. And
Yep.
so where the building does the L shape, that's kind of where the existing fence cuts over.
Okay.
If any
Got
of
it.
that made any sense.
It totally did. I got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Brad, do you still have a question or, okay.
My question has to do with lighting. I saw in one of the sheets a description of a light pole, but I couldn't find it among all the different numbers in there. And I guess this maybe is a question for staff as well. Is any lighting required here on site in the parking?
So we are proposing to do new parking lot lighting. The poles are, I believe they're 15-foot tall poles on 2-foot concrete bases. So they're under the 20-foot city ordinance. And then they're designed so that there is 0-foot candles beyond the property line.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have questions for the applicant? Okay. All right. Thank you, Andrew. I guess at this point, I will open the public hearing for 04 VAR 0520. If there's anybody from the public who would like to speak about this. Is there anybody in the waiting room or anywhere? Okay. All right. Seeing none, I'm going to close public hearing 04 VAR 0520. And I can open it up to commissioner comments at this point. I don't know if anybody wants to start us off. Okay, Barbara, sorry. It's really hard to see. It's really hard to see hands, sorry.
I read through all their analysis, the A through J, and they did a wonderful job. And I think that I can agree with every single one of their points.
Justin?
I feel the same way. I mean, it's just pretty much, it's in there a bunch of times and I concur with what they say. It's pretty much a district in of itself, a lot of stuff going on. you want to protect the yard, you got to keep stuff on hand. You got big trucks, trailers, telephone poles. The fencing makes sense to protect, it's probably very expensive stuff to have. So I've been by there lots of times on runs and rides, and I pretty much concur with their written application. So I can support their request for both the fence and the parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak or? Share their thoughts. Okay, Brad.
Well, adding to some of the considerations here, I guess, with the standards we have at play, sort of unique in that this land use is really part of its own zoning district. We don't have too many other, well, there are no other property owners, I guess, within this district. So it's certainly a unique circumstance with the land. I also believe that, our standard B is considered there as well, or is satisfied the rights of similar properties in the same district. That standard is one that is satisfied in this case. I think the improvements to the parking will do some justice in the broader neighborhood. The fence request as well, we're not seeing any extension of that horizontally, I guess, along the roadway. That's largely done behind the right of way and in keeping their equipment safe. And so I think that does substantial justice on the fence request as well. Those are, I guess, the additional comments I'll share at this time.
Anybody else that'd like to make a comment or? Okay, Mr. Dunn.
I think I'm generally in favor of this as well. I could use a little help from anybody on the board regarding how to satisfy, I forget what number, but the standard or the condition that it's not a hardship that's sort of self-created by the applicant. And that's the only one I'm having a hard time with, in that, I guess, I guess it's not really, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to check that box.
Okay, Mr. Ottaway, start with you.
Just piggybacking off of what Michael was saying, it's definitely a result of what they're doing, but I think just piggybacking off of what Brad has already said and the others have stated, this is a very unique situation because there's not anyone else that's in this district. And that's kind of where I'm going with this as well. If we had other members in the district that were not getting the same fairness or treated equally when it comes to opportunities to improve their land, I think we might have a different case when it comes through A through J. But looking at not a result of the actions of the applicant, I think we also have to take in consideration the safety aspect here of something that is probably a necessity in its own district. So I fully understand where Michael's coming from. I just don't know that it necessarily even matters in this case when we're talking about something that's in its own district.
Ms. Millen?
Yes, the hardship, regarding the hardship not created by the applicant, I think the land area is limited, and my assumption is that this expansion is necessary. And so what they can't do is make 2 stories or 3 stories, and confine, so that would maybe a way to look at this hardship concern. It's not created by them. They have to use land, and they can't just stack things up. So I could come to that conclusion.
Yeah, that helps me a lot. Thank you. Because when I look at it that way, that the applicant isn't creating the demand. That's a result of, consumer usage. So, yeah, thank you for that.
All right. Any other comments that people want to get in before I'm, okay, Justin?
I just bring up again, like with this self-created stuff, you gotta remember too, you got some topography issues. They're a little limited in where they can go. They have a solar garden there. You have a steam generation plant there. You have office space. You have parking and storage. A lot of this stuff is quite large stuff, takes up a lot of room, as I said before. So I don't think a lot of this is self-created. I think it's just the nature of being in your own district with a very, very unique operation in of itself. Power generation and maintaining stuff, such as the power generation, you have to have on, has to be on hand, has to be ready to go. Transformers, poles, trailer trucks, you name it. You know, when they come out, it's a pretty big operation. So I don't really feel there's any part of this is really self-created. I think they're trying to do very well to minimize it just the way it is.
Okay. And Ms. Wright?
Yes, if we were to make a motion, does that include both the fence and the parking?
It can, you know, if you're going to, you know, include both of them in there. That's my understanding. Is that correct, Andrea?
Yes, it depends, like if you're for one and against one,
Yes.
then it's however you would word that, you know, but yeah, it can be in the same motion.
So, but there's two variances they're looking for then?
Right, just like other ones, when you've had two variances for things too, or more, a side yard variance or a rear yard variance, things like that, all because of garage or something like that.
So we're going for 04 VAR 0520. And that includes everything.
Yeah, just follow the guidelines and then which way you wish to
Okay.
feel where it falls under that recommended action.
Okay. I'll make a
Okay,
motion.
right. Sounds great.
After conducting a public hearing and review of the staff file review and analysis for 04 VAR 05-20, the Board of Zoning Appeals finds that the request demonstrates the standards found in section 54.1404B5A through J of the Land Development Code and hereby approves 04 VAR 0520 as presented.
Support?
So there's a motion by Ms. Wright and support by Mr. Basso. Any other discussion before we call the vote?
None.
Okay. Okay. So there is a motion on the table to approve 04 VAR 0520 as presented. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Any no's? Okay. Motion carries. And the variances are granted, so. Okay. All right, so now we're done with the public hearings. We'll move to unfinished business, which we'll leave for right now. And then we'll move on to our new business. And this is the point that we're changing over to the rental
Well, I do
board.
have a-
Oh, sorry.
So I got kicked off there. I don't know if you guys noticed or not. Did you guys let in any of the public did you hold a public hearing?
Well, we asked, but there was nobody there that I saw.
In the
didn't
waiting
see,
room?
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't see anybody, but I'm not the best at Zoom, so hopefully.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so we can move on now to new business. And again, this is where we'll change to be the Rental Board of Appeals. So hopefully everybody got that in their packet and understand. Okay. All right, sounds good. And so now we have a new staff member who is going to present us with the first order of business, which is 2101 Fitch Avenue Appeal, PIN 0481050. So I'll turn it over to Brian now.
Thank you. Brian Anderson, Rental Inspector, Marquette Fire Department. The Rental Board of Appeals is being asked to review an appeal request from Mr. Steve Pelto, owner of rental property at 2101 Fitch Avenue. A rental certificate renewal inspection was conducted on this property on March 13th of 2020, and found that 2 windows do not meet egress requirements, which pose a life safety risk to any of the tenants residing at the property. Mr. Pelto was notified by the rental inspector, which was myself, that the windows would need to be replaced with windows that meet compliance. Mr. Pelto has requested that he be allowed an exemption from meeting compliance. Please see the attached appeal request from Mr. Pelto and the attached statement from rental inspector, myself, for more specific information regarding the compliance violation.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Brian?
Yeah, I have a question for Brian.
I can't see who it is, but go for it.
It-
Okay, Jeremy. Okay.
yeah, Brian, Jeremy Ottaway here. So in the notes, Mr. Pelto has signified that he had 3 to 4 inspections done at the property prior. And he said that this size of egress window was never an issue before that. So I'm just curious, has the rental code changed in the last time he had an inspection done?
No, it has not. This is the first time I've done an inspection on that property. This is my first time in there, so I don't know. I mean, the room could have been used as, previously, as a playroom for kids. It may not have been used as a bedroom, may not have been inspected as a bedroom. I don't know. Or maybe the windows since then have been changed. All I can do is, when I conduct the inspection, take the measurements and determine what it is at that point in time.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Dunn.
So I'm wondering, I'm fairly certain that the 20 inches for a egress window didn't come from us and probably isn't arbitrary. Brian, do you have any kind of information as to where that number comes from?
Yes, it's out of NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, Code 101. It's 24.2.2.3.3 to be more specific, and a copy of that photocopy is in the handout. NFPA
Excellent.
is an internationally recognized or adopted life safety code.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Wright?
Yes, is this new, like, since the building is very, very old, and so do all rental units are going to have to meet all the new codes, even though the buildings are old?
For life safety stuff, on something like this, they would have to be retrofitted. At what point, I don't know when those windows were changed, but they do have to meet compliance to be required to be a bedroom for sleeping purposes, for egress.
They seem to look, I went by the building, they seem to be pretty old. So, so from now on, you're going to be going through all the old houses and making the landlords do this?
If they do not meet compliance, they do have to have them up to code to meet the egress requirements.
So there's no grandfathering in or anything
No,
like that?
not on something like this, not on a life safety code.
And are they the height that they should be, not just the width?
It's the width that we're having the issue with. They're not wide enough to meet compliance. They have to be a minimum of 20 inches, and those are not.
But the height is the same?
Correct.
Is it over the height?
When you say over the height from the floor.
Well, a window should be 20 by, there's actually a square inch.
They have to be a minimum of 20 by 24. They did comply on the height, but not the width.
And then on your sheet that you gave out, let me try to find it there. You gave the code on it. it's 24.2.3.3, I think it is.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it says that it shall be, let's see, above the floor, such means of escape shall be acceptable where one of the following is met. The window shall be within 20 feet of a finished ground level. And then you never gave the next page to that. So there must be another page. Do you know what that read?
The window shall be directly accessible to the fire department rescue apparatus as approved by the authority having jurisdiction, which is the city of Marquette. The window or door shall open to an exterior balcony. It meets compliance other than just the width of the window. It's a first floor window, so the distance from the window opening to the ground, the finished ground level, is substantially less than the 20 feet. And the reason I only gave the one page on there, just because that is where it comes into play as far as the size of the window.
Okay, Justin?
Okay, I'm just gonna put you on the spot here just for a second. On page 62, there's highlighted A through E. And there, I'm just gonna bring your attention to E. And it's the minimum, if this was allowed to stand, it'd be the minimum that could still satisfy the safety requirement. In your opinion, is 19 inches still acceptable?
In my opinion, no.
No? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, the minimum is put in place for a reason. And at what point, I guess, would you allow an exemption on that? I mean, 19, 18, 17. So NFPA calls for 20-inch wide minimum, and that's what we have to follow.
Okay, that's so somebody can get in and get out and put a ladder up there.
Correct. It's to either for them to escape or for firefighters to gain access to perform a rescue operation if need be.
Okay. And the 19 inches, no matter what, is even if the window was open, it's not acceptable.
Correct. And that was the measurement, the widest part that I could measure when the window was open. The frame was only it only gave a 19-inch width of opening.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Mr. Ottaway?
Yeah, Brian, I just want to confirm that Mr. Pelto is not appealing any of the other fire code issues that had come up. I know that you had made a note saying that you didn't believe that he was. I just want to confirm that's the case.
As far as I know, that he is only appealing the window issue.
Okay.
And again, just to kind of point something out, there were two windows in that room. Both are the same size, and only one does need to be replaced. He doesn't need to replace both windows. It only need one window for egress.
Sure.
Okay, Ms. Mullen?
Yes, a couple questions here, or for our inspector. Are all firefighters that are currently working able to get through a 20-inch window?
It would be tight with all the turnout gear and the air pack and everything. That's why they do have a minimum requirement of 20 inches, but even at 20 inches, that still would be a tight fit for some people to get through.
Right. And another question about training. How does one get trained to be an inspector? And is there some conformity? Would you all, if say there's 5 people that have inspected, and is there just one person inspecting for the whole city of Marquette right now?
Yes, there is now. We have one full-time rental inspector, which is myself.
Okay, okay. And how long have you been doing that?
For a while, we were doing it the firefighters were doing it on an on-shift basis, and now since October, we have went to one full-time rental inspector position.
And what has been your training for this position?
I had a NFPA certified 2-week certified fire inspector class in December.
And before that, did other inspectors have to go through any coursework or classes?
No, it was an on-the-job training type situation then.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay. Alrighty. Is the applicant here to speak on this, or how does this work on a rental board of appeals? Okay.
Yeah, we'll bring in, well, there's
Okay.
2 people, so I guess I'll bring them both in. Maybe they're
Okay.
both for the,
Okay.
Great. Hello.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Maybe getting an echo there.
Hi, if you have YouTube on, can you please turn it off?
Hi,
I'm on.
Steve Pelto.
Yeah.
Okay, is my picture on or not?
Nope.
Okay. What I'd like to do is, as far as with Brian,
Yes.
I'm getting a lot of feedback. I'm gonna cut off on my phone, okay?
Sure.
Oh, I
Can
see.
you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, to go over everything. Yes, Steve Pelto, 60 Oak Hill Drive, Marquette, Michigan, 49855.
Are you still there, Steve?
I'm here.
Okay,
Can you hear
great.
me?
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
I can hear you better now. Yes, no feedback.
Okay, good.
I heard everything. I was on YouTube.
Okay.
Oh, good.
So I guess, Andrea, if it's typical to a normal case, we'd let the applicant now speak. Is that correct?
yep, the applicant now will state their case, and then you can ask them questions.
Okay. So Steve,
Great.
if you'd like to present, okay.
Thank you. One thing is yes, I am. Can you hear me? Well,
Yes.
a
Yeah, we
few
hear you
things.
fine.
One thing is, I'm not sure if Brian has it after me or after Look Realty a little bit.
I can't hear anything right now.
Okay, can I talk?
Yeah, you continue talking. That's fine.
Okay, I'm talking now. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. As far as I've requested copies of all the prior inspections. Okay, I requested copies of all the inspections on 2011 Fitch. Okay.
Mr. Pelto, if you're listening,
Yeah.
if you're listening to the YouTube feed, it's probably a little bit delayed. So you'd be best to just talk to us without listening to the YouTube feed, probably.
Okay, I'm gonna leave the.
Andrea, you might want to ask him just to call in if you have his phone number.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
It looks like he dropped out of the meeting and he's having a hard time
With that,
sorting it out. Yeah.
well, maybe that other number was him then. So
Yeah, it was because I think he had them both connected for some reason.
I could hear the YouTube feed in the background.
let's see.
Hey, Heather.
Yes. Jeremy, go ahead. Yeah.
Barbara, you're muted, just so you know. Barbara's trying to talk, but she's muted. I just had a question to see, and I don't know if it's appropriate for us to circle back at this point because we've already moved past talking to staff, but after Mr. Pelto's first thing, I would, after this, I may have a question or two for staff again, and I don't know if we can circle back that way, being a rental board situation, just because I know it after his first comment, it sounded like he was bringing up some personal questions that I think I would like to hear Mr. Anderson respond to if possible after this. Is that a possibility for us? Do you know, Heather?
I believe from when I was talking with Andrea that this role is just the same as the BZA meeting, and we've allowed that before where the applicant can talk to staff.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Is he gonna call in?
Yeah, I just talked to him. He's going to call in.
Okay.
Yeah, what a kind of messed up night. Me getting kicked off the internet for a while.
Yes, I agree. I think he has some feedback problems too, so we should probably mute all when he's talking because if he gets confused. Yeah. So.
And I told him to turn the YouTube off.
And the YouTube open.
Yeah. It's very confusing.
Yeah, I think he was listening to the YouTube thinking that it was actually live and he could talk back and forth like that with us.
Okay.
Is that where they mentioned there's a 20-second delay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, he's here. Let me get him in.
Hello, everybody. I was on Zoom, but I couldn't get in, and I'm now on the phone.
Perfect.
Great. Welcome back, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you. Would you like me to give my case over here?
Yep. We can pick up with that, and we'll all mute ourselves so we can hear you.
Okay. I had requested copies of all the inspections on 2101 Fitch. The only one that I received was back in 2008. I did not get one for 2011. I did not get one for 2014, for 2017, and now they just redid it for 2020. I'm not sure why they did not want to send those to me. They said they could only find the one. I did not own the home back in 2008. I was managing the home for them. It was for a Jeff Stone, and at the time there was 5 minor things that needed to be done, and those things were done immediately. And in fact, I had, and I've always had, a very good relationship with the previous chief, who was Tom Bell. Tom always would praise that if he talked to Steve, he did, and I asked him to do something, even though we may not agree, he does it, and he's a very easy landlord to work with, and you can ask Tom that himself. But anyway, we never had any question about these windows since 2005. Since 2005, there's never been an issue. I called the person that had put in the windows, and it was from Pete Hendrickson. And his letter reads, "To whom it may concern, I'm Pete Hendrickson from Northern Awning and Windows. We've been in business since 1958, and we've never run across making sure a replacement double hung window was put in that was at least 20 inches wide. We've been installing windows that fit in the existing windows, openings, excuse me. We install windows in the Look Realty apartment at 2101 Fitch Street in Marquette in 2005. That was Northern Awning. I called up then also to the window outfitters, to Tom Anderson. He said, "Steve, I'm very surprised by this action." He said, "I replaced many windows in bedrooms that were both rentals and owner occupied that were less than 20 inches. There has never been a question." He said, "If they are targeting you, then they need to also look at the hundreds of rentals that do not meet the 20-inch bedroom code." That was from, like I said, this is from both window places that do a lot of windows in this whole town. I'm just amazed at this. I don't know if Brian has something against us. Actually, 1 inch, he's saying that 1 inch makes a difference. I'm finding from the window people, 1 inch does not really make a difference. The other thing that I have a question on this, and it's not a big deal, is on the rear entrance door, they want me to put a deadbolt on. Well, I have deadbolts on my house at home. And you know what? You have to pull it close to you and then lock it. Most of the deadbolts that are good deadbolts, in order to have that good seal, you have to do that. Well, if you're getting in and out of a fire, it makes no sense to have a deadbolt. You want the easiest way to get out. So I guess that's a concern. But my biggest concern is I should not have to replace windows that have been in this house since the time this house was built. And I believe the house, you can ask Andrea, I'm not sure, I think is around 80 some years old. And when the windows were replaced, it wasn't me that replaced them. It was a previous owner, but they replaced the same size window. They didn't make it smaller. They didn't make it smaller. And at the time, I mean, the window places should know if in fact they need to go larger, but both people have said they've never, ever, in all the years they've been in business, have ever had this issue. Do you have any questions? Hello?
Okay. All right.
Hello?
Yep. So I'm not sure who's talking now, but so Mr. Ottaway, do you have a question?
I do. Mr. Pelto, just a question for you. The room that we have in the basement there, during the previous inspections, was that always a bedroom, or has it been something else in the past?
It's on the main floor. It's not in the basement. It's
Okay.
on the main floor. And yes, it has always been a bedroom. In fact, it has a bathroom in it. So it's the most desirable bedroom in the whole darn house.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions at this point for the applicant or Ms. Flynn?
Mr. Pelto,
Yeah.
is that bedroom on the north facing side? It looked
It's
like
facing south and west.
so facing the ballpark.
Yes,
Okay, and towards the back.
yes, and then also facing to the west in the back toward the garage.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other?
Just a moment. I forgot my other question. Yeah. Is the bathroom have a standard size window or a larger window in it?
I don't believe so. That was not in question, but I don't think so.
Since it's attached.
But again,
okay.
this is on the first floor. You just walk out into there's a quick living room. You can take a left and you're right out the other door, going out to the back door too.
So once you leave
we try
the
to keep up
bedroom,
our properties. In fact, we just had the furnaces just all cleaned and everything in tune. We try to keep up our places. So again, I was really thrown off with this, like I said, this 1-inch variance. And like I said, with the window people saying, hey, if they're gonna require you, they need to go around this whole town. There's gonna be hundreds of windows. And why are they just targeting, I guess, then the rental people? They should be targeting, I mean, if it's important for the renters, and I believe it's important for the renters, renter safety is very, very important to me. But how about the homeowners? How about homeowners that only have 17-inch windows or 16-inch windows or 18 or 19-inch windows? What about the owners? We should be, if they're going to be looking at rentals, they should be looking at everything. And since this was already in, it was passed at least 4 times before. There's no reason that it shouldn't be passed right now and into the future. And when I talked to both window people, they felt that there was no reason that between a 20-inch and a 19-inch, it's not really even a full inch. It's less than that. And there's not an issue with people getting in and out of there unless it's an obese person. And then you're still going to have a problem with a 20-inch.
Okay. Is there any other questions for the applicant or? And Steve, to correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, you would need to change one of the windows that's in this room, correct, to comply, to be large enough?
That was totally my understanding, but again, like I said, I do not feel, I mean, if the fire department missed it 4 times, well, first of all, I didn't own the property. Now I own the property. I've owned it for the last 8-10 years. I'm not sure what it's been. But as the window people even said, hey, if the fire department's making it and they missed it, they should be the one paying for it. I mean, it's not just like it's a simple fit. Now you got to cut out an extra inch. You got to take care of the siding. You have to take care of the rim around the siding. And then you have to put the new window in. You also have to do work inside of the house with the trim work and everything else. It's not a simple $100 or $200 deal. It's probably going to be $600-700. So I know in the last one you had an issue with a hardship. Well, there's the hardship right there.
All right. Just want to make sure, I mean, would it be a standard type hearing where we would, I mean, we don't close the hearing, so then we just talk about the case, or Andrea, what's your thoughts on next
Yeah,
steps?
if you guys don't have any more questions for the applicant, then you can discuss. And then just remember that you have to review the rental code of appeals requirements of, just like you have to determine with the variances, and we'll pop it on the screen again to show the public too.
Mhm. Okay, so it's this one's. Okay, Brad, kick us off.
So, so this is not zoning. You know, as Mr. Anderson said, this is a health, safety, welfare ordinance, or a police power ordinance, or a regulatory ordinance. Those are all sort of synonymous words to describe something that's not a zoning ordinance, and it's not a budget related ordinance. So, so there's sort of a different mindset here. You know, the property rights protections that are in place with zoning really don't exist in the case of a health, safety, welfare kind of ordinance in this case. And so I think we need to be very careful thinking about those standards. And as Mr. Anderson stated, the, you know, national fire code that this standard is tied to, you know, there's really not anything in the way of legal nonconformities with an ordinance like this. Sure, we have our own homes that we own that might not meet that code, but you know, that's me, myself, or you know, my family in that environment, not a you know, secondary individual. I also read here in the code, in no case shall the board grant an exemption which should lessen the safety, health, and welfare requirements of this article. And, you know, it's unfortunate this wasn't caught before, but I think we heard staff describe his level of training, which is different than what the city has done in the past. And perhaps that's a reason why this is an issue now. I think that this is a standard we need to be very careful about. I'm at this time not in favor of the variance. Thanks.
Thanks, Brad. Mr. Ottaway?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off of everything Brad said. I basically took notes, kind of echoing the exact same thing he just brought up. I think we need to make sure on this board that we remember we are a quasi-judicial system here. It's going to be kind of very important for us to remember that when we're making a decision that we are actually following the letters A through E brought up, and determining if it is possible for this appeal to be passed. And we better have a good reason for it. And the reason should never be something like there are hundreds or maybe thousands of other rental units in Marquette that have the same problem. We have to look at every case individually. This one was brought to our attention by a rental inspector. You know, and the bottom line with it is we have it's a code that is not just a Marquette code. We have a code that is a federal safety code where something is not being met. So piggybacking off of Brad, I don't see a way for myself to get past that. And at this point, I'm not in support of the appeal.
Okay, Mr. Vasso. Thank you, Mr. Radway. You have to unmute yourself, Justin. Sorry. There you go.
Okay, just real quick. I was looking at A through E on page 62 with the highlighted stuff. I was looking at it. I think he meets A, he meets B, he meets C, he meets D. And I needed to hear from the practitioner that has done these about getting into, does that 19 versus 20 work? Does the 19 still work? He said, no, it does not. That was his opinion. I'm gonna defer to his opinion. I was kind of in favor it until like I said, I was going to talk to the practitioner. The guy's going to be going up the ladder, trying to get people out the windows. It's even 20 is going to be tight in this case here. So I looked at it kind of like top to bottom, tried to, apply just whatever's. So I just said right now, I'm just not going to be in favor of this in support or in favor of this request. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Mr. Dunn.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to sound a little bit like an echo here because I think we're all saying the same thing. But the one disagreement that I have is that I don't think it meets the standards in C. I'm a landlord and I sympathize with Mr. Falco, but at the same time, I'm a little bit new to Marquette. Just moved here full time a couple of years ago. And one of the things that stood out to us when we moved here is not to be harsh, but the low quality of some of the rentals. And so the fact that we've got a trained inspector going out there and catching things like this at this point, I think is a very good thing. And I think we need to keep that in mind, that if we were to approve this and it would be hard for me to do so, because to me, it's not an arbitrary number. It's not a subjective matter. It's a quantitative standard that hasn't been met. So I don't really see any way to get around it. But if we were to approve something like this, we've now set a precedent for every single person in the future to say, well, so-and-so got this approved. They got an inch. Why can't we have an inch and a half? Or why can't we have an inch? Or so it's going to make it very hard to enforce things in the future. So I think we need to be careful about how we move forward. Thanks.
Okay, Ms. Millen, did you have your hand?
Yes. I have a concern about, I personally do not feel that 1 inch is or less than an inch is a significant amount. One, people's body sizes are very different. Are you going to only allow renters to be able to fit through that window? That makes no sense. And then most of the rescue people, this is a first floor apartment. And the inconsistency with the fire department, the inspections, that's also troublesome too. I think they eyeballed it before, but I'm not sure. I've had my own experiences with this. And that's why I asked those questions earlier of the inspector. And it's good to see that there will be some consistency. I just don't, if I was a rental person going into a room, I would know upon looking at a window whether I would fit or not, and that if that would be an option. And if I was 25 inches wide, that law doesn't apply to me. That you didn't say that, this is the standard 20 inches is the standard size of our ladder that fits in every window. He said it's just the national amount. And I do respect safety and I do respect the law. I just find that in this case, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me. So I will be, agreeing with the applicant in this case.
Okay. Mr. Dunn?
So I guess I'll respond a little bit to Commissioner Malin. With all respect, I felt very similar when I looked at this. It didn't feel like 1 inch was a big deal, and I wanted to be able to say, yeah, that's not a big deal. Let's just go with this. But in my own mind, what I came to is that I'm not an expert in health and safety issues and emergencies. And because I'm not an expert, I need to look to the experts to tell me what's okay and what's not okay. And I think in this case, that's what we're doing with the federal laws, and looking to Brian as well. So that's kind of where I came to. The one other thing that I was thinking is that 1 inch doesn't sound like a lot, but then when you put into a percentage, it's 5%. So that's 5% smaller than what it should be. So that made it feel a little different to me as well. So for whatever that's worth.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Adway?
I'd like to respond to. I think one of the things we need to look at when it comes to the fire code itself, if we're going to get hung up on the 20-inch issue, I don't know that code is necessarily written to say every person in every house is a certain size and 20 inches is what's going to fit. My interpretation of that code is more so that a firefighter with gear on can potentially fit into a 20-inch window, whereas something smaller than that may be a problem. But moving a little bit further, I don't think it's the jurisdiction of this board to determine, what standards, an inch or not, a federal standard that we should be able to change at a localized level. Because, bouncing off of what Mr. Dunn has already said, if we decided to make a change here and went from 20 to 19, that is opening up a can of worms for almost every decision that this board wants to make when it comes to any type of fire standard that the fire department's trying to enforce. There's going to be issues everywhere. And yeah, I sympathize with, Mr. Pelto and Look Realty, because this is an issue, and realistically, we're talking about something that's realistically a pretty minor thing, 1 inch, but it doesn't change the fact that it is still not conforming to a safety code. So I just don't see a way for us to get past that. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Wright, you have to unmute yourself. Okay, you're good.
I did it for you. You're good to go.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I didn't mute myself. That's why I was wondering. When would the code have changed from it was okay at this time, but it is not okay at that time? Don't we have to look at that too? When the building was built, it was okay, and at what point did they change that code? And isn't that part of this?
So like a general building code that windows must be 20 inches
Right,
for
and
egress.
at a certain point it was this, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden it changed, and now we're changing. Now we're making it opened that everybody is going to have to change their windows. And let's say next year the fire department says that a 26-inch window is needed. Now does everybody have to change their windows to 26-inch?
I don't know if Brian or Andrea can kind of speak to that. See what you think.
I can speak on that.
Okay,
What we
thanks.
do, we uphold the NFPA codes, and if they change, then we adopt the new changes. I don't know what they could be like in 5 years, 10 years, but what we do, we uphold what the latest and current one that the city has adopted, and that is the current one right now at the 20-inch. It's like some of the other members had said, it is a very slippery slope. You start trying to change some of these codes, and all of a sudden it goes, okay, well, it was 19 inches. Well, can't we do 18 and a half? Can't we do 18? that's why the standards are in place, and those are the ones that have to be upheld. Thank you.
Mr. Ottaway?
Yeah, since we have staff and Brian right here, I just wanted to ask a question that was brought to my attention that I wrote down. Brian, do you have any ill will towards Mr. Pelto or Look Realty, or has there ever been any conflict between either of you in the past?
No, I'm just doing the job that I have to do as far as the rental inspector, enforcing the codes and the ordinances.
Thank you.
And just real quick while you have you on there, Brian, how often are rentals inspected then? Is that like every?
It's on a 3-year cycle.
It is a 3-year cycle.
Yeah,
Okay.
if they're purchased in between, they do have to be re-registered, re-inspected. But if the owner still has possession of it, then it's on a 3-year cycle.
And you inspect all homes, including the older homes and like the regular apartment units, everybody, correct?
Anything that's a registered rental, yes.
Okay.
Apartment complexes, single family, 2-family homes, duplexes, triplexes. If it's a rental, it does get inspected.
Do we know if we lost Andrea? Is she on?
No, I'm still here.
Okay, good. All right. I couldn't tell. I just
Yeah, this just is in my case, so I just.
That's fine. Just want to make sure.
Yep.
Got kicked off last time. Okay. I guess I kind of echo, I think what Brad and Jeremy and some other people have said. It really bothers me that
Hello?
it's oh, sorry, Steve?
Yes, you had asked the questions before you get into that, if there was any ill will. In fact, there is. I challenged Brian on another rental that he did, and unfortunately, they held us up long enough not to go in front of the BZA. It's one that he had inspected, it had been inspected 3 times before, including by himself. It was located over on 1724 Longyear, where in fact they're making us now put in a hallway, which Brian admitted, and I hope he tells the truth, that's more dangerous than the way it is right now, where you have to go through one bedroom to get to the next. And I challenged them on this. Finally, I guess it was past the time and I couldn't go to the BZA on this. And then at the last one, he was very rude at the last inspection that we had at 2101. And actually my assistant said, well, I guess you're in for it now. So there is ill will, and I wish he would be, truthful in it and say that there is. So I think he probably pushed that issue a little bit more than he really needed to. So I just wanted to go on record for that. And we're making the correction over on 1724. Not that we agree with it, but because we missed the deadlines, unfortunately, on it. And I think it's more of a safety, it's going to be more of a safety issue than it is the way that it is already, quite honestly. And Brian even admitted that before to me. He may not admit it now. So, Mr. Ottaway, hopefully that will tell you where things stand.
All right. So is there any other comments, or I know we're getting some background feedback, so just be careful if you're not talking that you're on mute. Okay, so kind of going along with what Brad and Jeremy had said before, to me, it gets into life safety. Generally, we are BZA and we deal with inches and feet, fences, and those kind of things. But this is one of the things that really is scary to me when we start getting into life safety stuff. And as Mr. Dunn and some other people have stated, I don't have a background in this. I do think there's a reason that they chose the minimum of 20 inches, and it was probably a conciliation to get down to the 20 inches at the federal level, whatever that was. So it scares me, to go even smaller. And so that's when I was reading through the standards that we are given in this case, where I had a hard time accepting that part of it. So I don't know if there's any other comments or where we're at. Brad?
So I would prepare a motion here. We don't quite have the same language to tee something up here, but let me attempt this. And so I'll go kind of slow, I guess, for staff and everyone to hear. So after conducting a hearing and allowing for the applicant to be heard and the inspector to be heard on the case involving 2101 Fitch Avenue for a variance from the City of Marquette Rental Code, Chapter 26, Article 3, having to do with rental fire safety. The Board of Rental Appeals, is that what we are right now?
Yes.
Finds that the request does not meet standards C1 A through E and denies the request.
Second.
There is a motion by Mr. Newman and a second by Mr. Ottaway. Is there any further discussion on this before we call to the vote?
None for me.
Okay. All right, make sure you're unmuted here because we're going to, so all those in favor of the motion that Brad presented, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, no.
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 Okay. So that's 5 and 2. Is that correct, Andrea? Did you get that?
That's right.
Okay. And that is enough for quorum to say that the appeal is not granted. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. So now we'll move on. So is this where we can insert back in the election of officers, or?
Yeah, we don't see anyone in the waiting room. So yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't know we were doing
actually
this.
though,
Sorry.
if Steve wants to, oh, he's gone. Okay.
Okay.
Because Steve could have done.
Andrea, oh, okay, he left. Sorry, I put him in the waiting room.
Okay.
I put the elections before citizens. So sorry. That was my bad, but we can go back.
He's out. He's gone now. So yeah, we can go to the elections.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. So election of officers. Anybody else want to do this? Are both positions open then for voting, Andrea? I don't really know.
Yeah, chair and vice chair.
Okay.
Heather, I'd do it if you don't want to do it, but I mean, I think you're doing a great job, but I also don't want to keep you there if you don't want to do it. I mean, I don't have a problem rotating in, I guess, or even Brad or anyone else, but I'm just saying, I don't want to force you to be there. It seems like we've been kind of doing this a year at a time, and I wouldn't have a problem doing it for a year, and or I'd have no problem with us staying the same, whatever.
I'd be perfectly fine with you taking the chair.
I second.
Okay. Mr. Vassa?
I'd like to make a nomination for current chair, Hedda Dombrowski, to stay as chair.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay.
I second that.
Yeah, and I don't really care if it's chair or vice chair. It doesn't really matter to me, obviously, but if Jeremy would like it, I'm fine with that too.
I'd have no problem with us just switching roles if that's what that
Okay.
needs to do. Because, I mean, basically, we were kind of 50-50 when it came to attendance anyway. So maybe it's a good thing.
That's true. Well, if everybody's okay with that, then I don't know if I can do it. But, if Jeremy could be chair and then I would be vice chair, and then we could do that for another term. Unless anybody else has anything.
So we need to deny this motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right? There's a motion and a second. So
That is true.
It's true. My fault.
By the way, I am likely to rotate to an alternate seat as well. I guess that's going to be before the city commission.
Okay. So Andrew, do we have to deny or vote down Justin's motion in order to change the chair and vice chair?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Well, I don't really care. But all those in favor of the motion Justin presented of having me as chair signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no.
No.
No, I
Thanks,
Okay.
Barbara.
doesn't care. Okay. So a new motion. Can I move it if I'm involved in it?
So I'll move to
Yes.
nominate Mr.
Okay, thank
Ottaway
you.
for the.
Second.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor, can we vote on the chair and vice chair at the same time?
Yep. If you want to do that nomination that way, you can do it that way too.
Okay.
I move to nominate Ms. Dombrowski as vice chair.
Yeah.
Second.
All right. All righty. So can we vote on both at one time, or we have to do them singularly? Probably.
Well, yeah, you made two separate motions, so now you'll have to.
Okay. All those in favor of Brad, Mr. Newman's nomination of Jeremy for a chair signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
All those opposed?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Okay, then motion presented by Mr. Ottaway to have myself, Ms. Dombrowski, as vice chair. All those in favor say yes.
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 All those opposed, no. Okay, all righty. Well, it's your meeting now.
Well, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Were there any board member comments? I suppose we should ask.
No.
Good to meet you all.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Maybe we can meet you in person at some point. Thank you for joining.
I'll just say something really quick. You all probably saw that the governor's order got extended. More than likely, from what I'm hearing, is we might be continuing doing the Zoom depending on what shakes out instead of meeting in person. So there may be a Zoom meeting in June, or we may be socially distancing at a meeting at City Hall. So just
City
Our
Hall.
tiered plan for the city is to stay on like a total social distance tier until the governor's order is lifted. And then we go down to our tier 2. In that tier 2, boards and committees are still over Zoom.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be until we got to tier 1 that we'd allow like people spread out in the commission chambers, for example, or something like that. So
Okay, yeah, I
probably
didn't
looking
know.
at June.
Sure. Okay. So I didn't know because the only way we were able to do the Zoom order was through the governor's order. So it all depends if that gets extended legally.
Yeah, we're assuming it's going to be, but obviously if it's not, things will change.
Yeah. So hopefully, yeah. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. You know more. This is what they need to know. So I appreciate that. So that was it. More than likely, we are having a case in June. Someone contacted me, and I think that we will have a June meeting.
Okay. Well, I think there was a motion out there to adjourn. Was there a second? Okay. All right. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Those opposed, no. All right. Sounds good. All right. Thank you, guys.
Be
You're
safe.
Thank you.